Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Chaos Coder. Today we're going to explore one of the core building blocks of Angular applications, components. The components in Angular are like self-contained blocks that handle a specific part of your app. They are responsible for the look, the logic, and the interactivity of your application. The HTML file defines the structure of the view. The TS file handles the logic and properties. The CSS file manages how the component looks. Let's look at app.component.ts file to understand components. The app component is the root component of the application. It is a standalone component that imports router-outlet to handle routing functionality. The component's HTML structure is defined in the app.component.html file, and the styles are specified in the app.component.css file. The component is identified by the app root selector, which Angular uses to render this component at the root of the application. The component decorator marks the class that follows as a component. It provides metadata that Angular needs to create and manage the component. The selector defines a custom HTML tag that Angular uses to render this component in the DOM. In this case, it's approot. This means that wherever approot is found in the HTML, Angular will replace it with the content of this component. In most Angular applications, the approot component is the main or root component that bootstraps the entire application. The standalone property, introduced in newer versions of Angular, marks the component as a standalone component. Standalone components don't need to be declared in any NGM module. Instead, they can directly import their dependencies and can be used on their own without being part of a module. This is helpful for simplifying application structure. The imports array is used to specify dependencies that the standalone component needs. In this case, router-outlet is imported. Router-outlet is a directive from the Angular router that acts as a placeholder where routed components are displayed. It enables Angular to swap components dynamically based on the current route. The template churl property points to an external HTML file app.component.html that contains the template for this component. The template defines the structure and layout of the component's view, what will actually be rendered in the browser. The stylerls property specifies the style sheets associated with the component. In this case, it links to the app.component.css file, which contains the CSS styles for this component. The styles defined here are scoped to this specific component, meaning they won't affect other components. Angular 18 introduces standalone components, meaning they don't need to be part of a module. This simplifies the way we organize our components. Following is the command line generating the standalone component. I have created a new project here with standalone component name. We're going to create 3 different components: header, main body, and footer, to show how we can structure an Angular app with standalone components. Let's generate our components using command line ng generate component and name of the component. Here, first component we are creating is header. Let's generate main body component. Now generate footer component. In the header component, let's define a simple header with an h1 element that welcomes users to our app. Now let's add some basic styling to give the header a green background with white text, and make sure it's centered on the page. Next, let's move on to the main body component. In this template, let's add a paragraph element. Let's style the main section to have a light background and padding for a clean, minimal look. Finally, we have our footer component. The footer sticks to the bottom of the page and includes copyright information. Let's style it with a dark background and white text, and use position fix property to make sure it stays at the bottom of the page. Now that we've built our components, let's bring them all together in our app component. As we're using standalone components, we directly import them. Now embed them in the app.component.html file. Now let's run our project using ngserve. When we run the app, you'll see our components working together. The header welcomes users, the main body displays the content, and the footer stays fixed at the bottom. And that's how you can build a simple page structure using Angular components. To recap, Angular's component-based architecture allows you to break your application down into reusable modular parts. By leveraging standalone components, we've made the app simpler and more maintainable. In the next video, we'll explore data binding and how Angular allows us to link our components with dynamic data. Thanks for watching.